My name is Ritika Prasad and I welcome all of you to our session Win Over the C-Suite Customer with Windows on Wall Street. So we have more than 120 participants who have registered for this session across US, Europe, India and Australia. In the session today, our seasoned speakers will help you in discovering how to use concepts from Wall Street to make inroads with C-suite decision makers. So the host for today's virtual session is Mr. Vishendra Verma, who is also the founder and CEO of Sutra. So I'll pass on the mic to him so we can begin with our session.
Thank you, Ritika. As the first of a series of short, punchy virtual seminars titled Growth Sutra in 30 Minutes, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to this very first session. The purpose of these crisp and straightforward sessions is to provide best of insights from seasoned and experienced gurus in the field of strategy, marketing, and sales. Engaging with C-suite in the right way is an aspiration for many founders, marketers, and sales heads, especially when they are either selling their ideas or a B2B product. At Growth Sutra, as we advise, coach, and collaborate with founders and their team as a fractional CMO and or marketing advisor, we often have the requirement to design a brand program that can engage C-suite executives. Today, in this session, we'll be addressing this with the concepts from Wall Street. It is a privilege for me to introduce my good friend and senior advisor at Growth Sutra, Dennis Roman, who is joining us from Florida. Dennis is also the founder of Roman Sambas. In his previous life, Dennis served as the global marketing head for products and platforms at Tata Consultancy Services, as well as the global marketing head for financial services at Oracle and HP. The two main areas of Dennis' expertise are Windows on Wall Street and sales with an edge. Hi, Dennis. Welcome to this session. Many of our attendees were captivated by the session subject and eager to learn more. So when presenting to a C-suite buyer, what do you find to be the most glaring disconnect by the seller?
In my view, the C-suite thinks Wall Street and the technology vendors think Tech Street. All of my years working for tech companies, HP, Oracle, TCS, it's natural that technology sales and marketing people gravitate towards other sales and marketing, towards other technology people at the buyer's community. That's not a new phenomenon. It makes a lot of sense because maybe they even went to the same school, but the vocabulary is different. The concepts are different. And so it's nobody's fault, but I don't know, should I say this out loud? The tech vendors can be pretty boring, especially because 10 tech vendors chasing the same account will be unfortunately lumped into, hey, I heard this 2 hours ago from another vendor. I heard this 2 hours. And so that's where my idea about CA squared come from. Change your arguments and you'll change your audience. This is a gross oversimplification. Nobody really does this anymore, but instead of talking speeds and feeds, we're talking about your stock price is hurting, and these are reasons why we think it's hurting. We think we can be of help to you, right? So that's the theory. The disconnect is we have different orientations, different trains of thoughts, different vocabularies. So that's it in a nutshell. The C-suite is hungry to get answers, and the technology vendors are desperate to give answers, but they keep glancing off each other because they're just like not in the same room at the same time talking about the same subject. I think Riaz agreed with that. He was bopping up and down. He goes, yeah, that's us. Yeah, that's us.
Yeah, that's a great insight. Riaz, do you have anything to comment, or anyone from the participants? You have any comments or views you want to share here?
Yeah, I think as Dennis alluded, the trick is how do you get that excitement or that engagement at the C level. I mean, I had a case in point last year where the only way was through a webinar, very similar to this, would bring in our CDO to talk to about 5 other CDOs and then get their attention so that they recommend us to their engineering teams in order for us to get into a sales cycle. But it is time consuming. You really have to excite them in that first interaction, because if they don't get excited, you sort of lose the momentum. So that first webinar is critical to getting C-level engagement. I don't know. Any thoughts? Yeah.
Hey, Riaz, before you let
Yep.
go of that, I like that a lot. So would that first webinar, that first Zoom call,
Mhm.
I'm presuming you're talking to one company at a time as opposed to
No,
multiple.
we were lucky. We managed to get about 5 seats. So we get 5 CDOs. I mean, just case example, yeah. So we had five banks in this seminar. Our lead speaker, similar to Dennis, was our CDO, Peter Jackson. I don't know if you know him. And then we managed to get one of the CDOs to recommend us, and that became it took 6 months later, but we got a deal out of that. And then hooking onto the engineering tech teams across the world as well isn't easy. So it's not just the data officers or the CIOs, but you also need to get the engineering guys engaged in a tech discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Harry?
I was wondering that, Riaz, we have gone back to all personal about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
But still, when you work in a distance, you might still be in the situation to have to do it over electronic media.
Yeah. No, I mean the
it is more about for me, it is more about what is the right message and what is the English word for it? The need.
Yeah.
Need of the customer.
Cool.
Not only the story, but you have to catch them with their need in their relative role and position.
Yeah. So
I think, Dennis, you go a lot into the direction of really addressing business needs and then trying to link this. I keep saying for 20 years, nobody buys large servers as a heater for the living room. So what is the need? And engineers often are too technical in their arguments.
Yeah. Their own technology departments are too abstracted from the business community at the companies. They're not even their own internal teams aren't talking the same vocabulary as the people over on the C-suite. Thanks, Harry. Hey, Venkat, anything that you want to contribute?
I will contribute as we go along, not right now.
Okay, fine. Vikash. Nilesh, would you like to speak up?
I think we can invite Manu. Nilesh, go ahead, please.
Thanks. So as of now, I don't have any specific thing to share. Maybe once we hear more views, I think that is when I can contribute.
Sure. Manu, do you have anything to share from your perspective?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. And first of all, thanks for this session. Quite brilliant. See, I mean, I've been a sales guy in ID space for the last 15 years. My predicament, I think 15 years back, it was far easier to sell because technology itself was a differentiator. And today, I mean, that differentiator has tapered a lot. So between 2, 3, 4, 5 organizations, you don't have a differentiator on the technology side. And more or less everybody follow the same template of format to reach out to C-level execs. So what I'm struggling, or what my predicament is, how do I make my engagement different from others as my differentiator? So if Dennis or you have any view on that, it would be really helpful.
Manu, thank you so much. I'm going to assert myself here because you've touched a nerve for me. This is why I exist today, is to speak to this issue. I've actually taught and told and cajoled and charmed and demanded that sales teams go into a meeting with the following format. Could be Zoom, could be in person. The first slide is, hi, I'm at TCS. I'm wonderful. We're wonderful. Okay, fine. Everybody expects an opening slide. The next slide, if I asked the poll here what everybody thought the next slide would be, nobody's going to get it right. The next slide, and this is why I asked Riaz whether it was a mixed community or a single company community, because what I'm about to say will fall apart in a mixed community. If you're speaking to one firm, one organization, the very first slide you should put up is their income statement. You just show them their income statement. Now, the good news is some people in the room will know what that is. Some people in the room, especially if they're on the technology side, they may not know what it is, but it's their income statement. And you just look at it and you say, look, there's 3 numbers on this income statement: revenue, cost, earnings per share. And if you look right here, your revenues are going down, either as a company, or I can tell you later how to figure out by line of business, which is even more valuable. Your revenues are going down. We got all these revenue enhancing solutions over here. Can we have a talk about that? Or, you know, your costs are a little out of control because your costs are going up faster than your revenues. That's a problem. You can't stay in business if that goes on forever. And you know what? We got a half a dozen cost saving solutions over here. Now, I've just repeated what every other vendor has ever said, which is, if you buy my stuff, we can help you make money. Or if you buy my stuff, we can help you cut costs. But no vendor ever says that, right? They're always saying, I got a solution and it'll enhance your revenue. But what I want to have happen is, you got revenue that's in trouble. We have revenue producing solutions over here. You have costs that may be a problem. We have cost saving solutions over here, and offer up what they are. So just taking any particular vendor's set of offerings to say, we have, this is precisely the point. We have a solution that enhances customer experience, whatever it is. We have it, and every vendor stops at the end of that. They go, we have a solution that enhances customer satisfaction, period. No, we have a customer satisfaction solution that will increase your revenues, and your stock price is going to go up. And the customer goes, well, who are you to be talking? Who are you to be saying this? Well, look, customer, there's revenue, there's cost, and there's earnings per share. If your costs don't change and your revenue goes up, that means your earnings per share goes up. They go, yes. I said, well, if your earnings per share goes up, that means your stock price is going to go up. How do you know that? It's mathematics. You change the revenue, keep the cost the same, your earnings go up. You increase the revenue, keep the cost the same, or you decrease the cost and your earnings are going to go up. So Manu, that is my religious point of view on this thing. It may sound overly simplistic, but I can assure you, no vendor in the world, not Accenture, not McKinsey, no vendor in the world has ever walked into a meeting and say, here is your income statement. We're here to work on that with you. You're going to open every door, and they may think you're crazy, but they're also going to realize you are a vendor of a different caliber. You've demonstrated that you've researched my company. You have the nerve to stand there and say, you can help me here. Not theoretically, abstractly. Anyhow, you can see I get off on that question. Sorry, Manu, I probably over-answered.
Fair enough. Valid point.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I think that's quite an engaging conversation. Dennis, should we kind of launch a poll as well?
Yeah, let's take a poll and we'll see why it's so pragmatic and practical. Let's see what the poll questions look like.
Okay, I believe you can see my screen. You can select your response. What might be the most comparable metric across all public companies? Is it market cap, stock price, PE ratio, revenues? Wonderful. So we have 100% participation. And let me end the poll. poll, and I'm going to share the results. So you see P ratio and revenues is kind of we got maximum of the responses.
Okay, so let me talk about this. So I designed this question so that nobody could feel badly when it was over. Every answer is accurate. However, one answer is more accurate than the other three, but they're all absolutely valid. So nobody can get this question actually wrong. But I will say, first off, let me mention, often the marketplace is divided by companies in pursuit by market cap. They say, I'm going to take the big caps and I'm going after them. I'm going to take the mid. Okay. My philosophy is that's dead wrong. You should group your companies as an example by how much revenue they have. Because companies with similar amounts of revenue behave very similarly. It isn't their market cap. Okay. So that's part A, although the answer isn't incorrect. The PE ratio is the right answer, the relationship between price earnings. And we're going to expand on that in just a minute in another question. So yeah, you could compare companies on revenue or on market cap. So there's a lot of different ways to look at companies. I have a very precise way, as a matter of fact, which I'm going to just mention here. Why don't you just divide the universe into companies who have money to spend and put 80% of your work in that area? And the other companies who don't have money to spend, you could still send over a specialized team to go attack people who ain't even got any money. And your question might be, well, how do I know who has money to spend? That's a future webinar. Okay, but why don't you just go after people who have a lot of money? I can tell you who has a lot of money, and it ain't based on revenue. Okay, next poll.
All right, so let me share the next poll. It's going to be, okay. From 1 to 3, how would you rank the following P characteristics in terms of importance? If it is low, so you have to just rate from 1 to 3, each of these 3 bullet points. If it is low or less than 10, if it is high, more than 30, if there is none at all. All right, I'm going to close it now. So here we have the results.
Okay, thanks, Vishnu. All right, so a PE ratio is a subject that we could spend an hour on all by itself. Let's start with this. What does anybody know what it means if somebody doesn't have a PE ratio? If you go on, Yahoo Finance and type in a stock symbol and there is no PE, it's just empty. It's blank. It's not zero. It's blank. Does anybody realize what causes that? I'll tell you what causes it. They don't have any earnings. Or literally, their earnings are negative. Negative, meaning revenues minus costs is negative. That's all that means. And if the earnings are negative in mathematics, you can't divide by a negative number. So a blank PE means they got no earnings. Their earnings are negative. The company is losing money every single day. So you remember the 20% I talked about? If you have a specialized team, they could just go after companies that got no earnings because those people need help. They just ain't got any money. So how might you help them? Now, a low PE, and everything is relative here. When a company's PE of 30 means that the earnings are starting to not justify the stock price. Because that's what a PE is. It's the stock price divided by the earnings at any given moment. And it is the stock price, Tesla, the further away the stock price from the earnings, the higher the PE gets. So that's a worry. That doesn't mean it's a bad company. It just means the enthusiasm in the market is so high for that stock that people are disregarding that the fundamental reason for the stock price is the earnings that are coming. And if it's low isn't a negative number. Having companies with a lower PE, you know what that means? That means the marketplace hasn't figured out what a great company this is. And maybe you could go over there and figure it out and start talking to them. All right, so that's the second poll. Let's go to that third one. I think this one will be real helpful.
Yeah, let's be quick about this because we already overshot the time. All right, I have launched question number 3. What can you conclude if a company announces a buyback? You have to pick one option. Perfect. I think that's easier to answer, and okay. All right, I'll end the poll. And
so this poll question can be explained by the physics of drinking soda through a straw.
yeah.
Now, if you ask 99% of the entire world, how does a straw work? I know this sounds ridiculous. You stick a straw in a glass of soda and you suck on the straw and you get soda. Why? Almost everybody on the planet would say, I suck the soda up through the straw, and that's how no, you don't. Believe me, try to suck up a liquid. It's almost impossible. What causes the soda to get in your mouth is you suck the air out of the straw, and atmospheric pressure pushes down, and therefore the soda rises. You do not suck soda into a straw. You suck the air out. Okay? Similarly, on a PE, the universal comparison is between these individuals. The reason I give you the straw concept is this. If I asked everybody, and there's not many people to ask, I admit, but if I asked everybody, why would the stock price rise? Why? Most people would say, because when they're going to do a buyback, it's favorable, whatever. It makes them famous, and people are going to run. No, that's no more true than sucking soda through a straw. What makes the stock price rise is as follows. As the company pulls shares out of the marketplace, puts them back in the treasury, the denominator of PE ratio goes down. It goes down because the denominator, it's less shares to divide the earnings by. And lower PEs, all things being equal, suggest the stock is a better value than higher PEs. So it doesn't happen because the press wrote a story about a company. It is true, if a company's doing a buyback, their stock will go up. But now you know why. It's not just because they got good publicity. It's math. It is just simple mathematics. That's why I said these are very practical examples. We talk about a theory on the front end on the webinar, and these are just working examples. Okay, that's it for me on that subject. Back to you, Vish.
Thanks, Dennis. I believe we'll conclude this session, and maybe we can continue our session in the next one, which we are planning to have on Jan. But before we go to that topic, should we kind of have any comments or views from the audience here on any of the insights which Dennis has shared? Anyone, if you want to kind of share any inputs or thoughts?
No, I think Vish and Dennis, it's a brilliant webcast wherein this approach towards selling makes sense. But I think the only thing which we would want to know in next session is if somebody probably from a customer, let's say CFO asks, great point. You would help us increase our earning per share, etc. But then they might ask, how would you benchmark us with my competitors? So those are the answers which we need to seek before we really create a value pitch to our customers on this EPS and other stuff, because this is a highly technical thing. So we need to have that playbook ready before we really go ahead and pitch.
Thank you, Manu. I do have one short thing to say about this. In my Windows on Wall Street workshops, what I present to the audience and through my Sales with an Edge reports, let's say, Manu, you said to me, Dennis, I want to go after, I don't know, Verizon. how should I go after Verizon? So I would never come back to you with a report just about Verizon. I would only come back to you with a report about Verizon and its other 3 or 4 major competitors. Okay, because you never study a stock in isolation. You've already intimated this indirectly. You got to look at them compared to everybody else. So I would be holding up a spreadsheet. Here's a spreadsheet, which you can't see because of the stupid green screen. Okay, I'm holding up a spreadsheet with all these categories of secrets. They're all in the public domain, but they're all in my head. This is important, this is important, this is important. So imagine 10 things that are important. And here are 5 vendors with all the numbers filled in, with little red lights flashing. This vendor's got a problem here. This vendor, I don't know what the problem is, but I know that metrics mean this vendor's in trouble in this area. So right away, you can go in and say, we already know this. You're exceeding your competitors here. You're almost on par here. And you're deficient here. We're going to help you work on this. It's a somewhat indirect answer to your question, but it's very, very bloody meaningful. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Manu. I think that's a good question to have, and I believe that will also give us some, some more work to do especially for our next session. The next session is going to be the potential trade-offs between revenue versus references. I think both these areas are very critical for any business, and it's very important to understand how do we balance out these 2 elements. We would then meet up in the next new year with this topic with our fresh thoughts. And we thank you all for participating today and making this session very engaging and interactive. We would be available on our email. You can, if you have any questions or queries, you can send it to me either on my email ID, which is vishwendra@growthsutras.com. Ritika, could you share the screen, please? Yeah, and or if you have any queries for Dennis, you can send a question to Dennis at romansnumbers.com. But yeah, thank you again. Thank you all of you for joining this session. Also, Ritika has shared a link to the next event on the window. This is the link which takes you to the LinkedIn page of the next event. You can book your seat for that session, and we look forward to seeing you there. Dennis, you have any last comments? Otherwise, we'll end.
I'll just close with this. The trade-offs between revenue and references, that's a subject that's also very near and dear to my heart. I'm working on a gig with a major branding agency in New York, and they've asked me to craft a 15, 20-minute video on the subject, which I'm working on. So that's going to hit the market right after our next webinar. So the next webinar will be a preview into that question where I talk about you got to give a little to get a little, and how important the references are if you don't have any. Sort of like that. So again, I really appreciate everybody showing up today. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you to spend time with us, and your comments are being recorded, and we're going to take care of that. Oh, when you take the survey, there's room for comments, and the nicer your comment, we may be posting that with the video. We'll post it anonymously though, so that's the thing. Ritika, thank you so much. You ran the back office for us. Thank you so much, Ritika. It was very nice to get to work with you as well. Vish and I are delighted to have had this time with you. We'll see you hopefully January 12th. Hope you have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Same for you.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Merry Christmas and have a great New Year. Bye-bye, guys.
That's nice. Bye.
Bye-bye.